The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. Hello, this is Peter Martins. Welcome to this week's Art Beat on Classical 105.7 KLZK. I have the pleasure of being here this week with the director of the School of Theater and Dance from Texas Tech University, Dr. Mark Charney. Hello, Mark.
Hey there, Peter. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, good to see you. We share a building most days here on the campus of Texas Tech, and I certainly have enjoyed being at the productions in the School of Theater Dance over the spring semester, which are now done, right? The main Major Theater is Dirk.
Yep, we closed with world premiere, The Nerve of Minerva by Jason Williams, which I have to tell you, Peter, was our most popular show since this building was constructed. Sold more tickets and had more people. I think something around 1,200 people saw that show, so we're really proud of it.
Wow. And it was a premiere, right?
It was a world premiere. It was a musical set in a barnyard, sort of silly. And it's a world premiere, but it's in development. So what everybody saw here isn't necessarily what they'll see the next time this production goes forward.
Interesting. Well, I only saw it once, but I left thinking I would have to see it 3 or 4 more times to get all of the humor, all of the jokes that are embedded in the dialogue. It comes real fast and furious.
It does, and I think a lot of the best humor comes in the lyrics. Mm-hmm. So when you see it over and over, you can really sort of understand how clever the lyrics are.
Well, we can keep our eyes out for wherever that show goes next in the world and be proud that it started here.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, as we move into the summer, as is the case, I think, across the College of Visual and Performing Arts here at Texas Tech, faculty, students scattered to the four corners, really, literally, of the earth and do summer things. And I know there are a few things of that nature that theater's involved with and that they've been running for many years. So maybe I'll start by asking you the one that's on campus, the Wild Wind Festival, if I have that name right.
We call it Wild Wind Performance Lab. It sort of came from the idea that it is a laboratory because there's so much process-based work, not product-based work. And it's sort of taken from, I used to lead something called Word Bridge Laboratory, which was a play development 2 weeks based on Sundance. This is a holistic training model for students, meaning that it covers all elements of theater. It used to be 4 weeks. It started 2013 was the first Wild Wind, and we've actually had it every summer, but it's changed dramatically over time to sort of suit the students who are taking it. We called it Wild Wind for that reason, knowing that it would change and morph over the years. So the 4-week program is now a 2-week program. When it started, I was executive and artistic director, and it went pretty much from 9 in the morning to 11 at night for 4 weeks. Then Michael Legg took over from Actors Theater of Louisville, and it became a more structured laboratory. And now Jim Wren and Brian Chiata are in charge of it. They're sort of co-artistic directors, and it's 2 weeks.
Okay. And as you said, there aren't performances that explicitly are scheduled into this lab, but if I'm not mistaken, last year's Wild Wind produced something that was eventually staged.
Yep. One of the things we've done over the years is many of the plays that we develop in part of Wild Wind. Wild Wind is scheduled in an interesting way. The first 3 hours of the day are either laboratories. They're either 3-hour workshops in performance or 3-hour workshops in design, and they divide up. And then there's an hour where all of the guest artists share their journey, sort of how they got, where they got professionally. And then in the later afternoon, they developed a play. So many of the plays that were developed here ended up on Broadway, most recently one called POTUS that was developed here. But this is a slightly different model. Instead of bringing 24 guests in and changing those guests every week, we're bringing in one organization called the PAC. And the PAC is led by Hansol Young. She is a playwright and a writer for television. If you've seen Pachinko, she writes that on Apple Television. And she wrote the adaptation for Tales of the City on Netflix. So Hansol got together with a dramaturg named Lexi they met, and then they decided the best way to produce is through an organization of performers, designers, and writers. Now, the pack started, sadly, right during COVID, right before COVID. Hansel had written a play called Wolf Play, and they'd had 4 weeks of rehearsal, and it was opening at Soho Rep, and then COVID happened, and they were told they'd have a 4-week respite, and then we all knew what happened there. So they came back in 2022 with Wolf Play, developed it, and it won all the Lucille Lortel Awards in New York. I think it was nominated for 8 and won 7. It won a bunch of Obies. It was an interesting play with a puppet about adoption. The whole group got along so well that they decided to form this organization called The Pack, based on the Wolf Play idea. And since then, they've gotten together. They decided they'd at least write one play every year, and they've been successful at that. Last year, they were here as part of Wild Wind. Wild Wind then developed the Nerve of Nerva. We used that time to start that development process. But at the same time, the Pack created a play called The Backyard Boys, which was a very innovative play about a bunch of male boy band singers who were invited back, they thought, for a reunion. One of the members had died. They had created an AI version of that member, and they found that they were trapped in some sort of bizarre competition. It was a musical. It was really very funny. It was written in the 2 weeks they were here, and it was performed here, and we thought that bringing that organization here would really benefit our students.
Wow, okay. And that's happening then again this summer?
This summer, but it's a 2-week program. And what we're doing different this summer is that while it's for our students, we're also opening it up to the LISD schools in the area.
Oh, wonderful.
Each of the theater directors at those schools is choosing 5 talented students who will be asked to join this performance lab for free. And so we're really looking for students who may not have opportunities financially. There's a bunch of laboratories in the city. There's a camp before ours, but it costs. And there's a UIL camp after ours, but it costs. This will be free. And we're hoping that not only will it introduce these students to opportunities they haven't had, because this group comes out of New York. They perform often, and there'll be mentors going forward. But we're hoping it's a good recruiting opportunity for us as well. So they'll be working alongside our students. In the first week, they'll be taking workshops in everything from looping to clowning. And in the second week, they'll create their own sort of plays and art. And the last Friday, we'll have an sort of open rehearsal or presentation of what they've put together in the 2 weeks.
Oh, what a great opportunity for those students. That sounds exciting.
I think so, yeah. And these people are they're young, they're charismatic. When I talk about looping, for example, I didn't know what that was. You probably do because you're a music guy.
I was going to ask, actually, if you meant the looping as in the audio looping. Okay.
Yep. And 2 of the members of this organization recently put a play together called Mexodus, which is going to end up opening at the public in New York. And they do all the music, and they have 12 buttons on stage where if they're looping something, they push a button, and it stops the repetition of the music they have looping, and it starts it again. So
yeah, looping is an interesting combination between improvisation and pre-composed little short segments. So I can see that working well in a theatrical context. Yeah.
Well, it's partly sounds that they make, with their mouth and their lips, or it's a musical strain on a guitar, or it's, and then they capture that particular thing, and then they can play it over and over.
Right. Yeah, you're seeing that more and more even in live performances around town. It's kind of fun.
Well, their Mexodus, which is about an underground Mexican railroad, and there are only 2 actors in it. It's all sung, but the music is either played by them on stage or looped while they're singing through the entire story.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, speaking of Mexico, we get maybe halfway there in terms of some other activity that you've got going on during the summer down in Marfa.
Yeah, and Marfa's happened, I think this is year 8 or 9. It's changed too. It's a 2-week program. When we started Wild Wind, one of the focus areas was devised theater. Devised theater is where you don't have a script and you have a group of artists and they produce a script based on a prompt like healing or borders. Years ago, Tim Crowley, who used to be a student here, has a hotel and a theater in Marfa, and that's where Susan Laurie Parks and Wallace Shawn and Annie Baker often produce plays.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, why don't you come down for 2 weeks and I'll put your students up and I will give you the theater for free and let you go at it. So give me a proposal. Since devised theater is still a hot topic, we decided that would be a good opportunity to devise theater using the environment in Marfa. Mm-hmm. Now that is pretty much an hour from the border there. And so we've had a variety of different ways of using that intensive as well. Last year was the first year that what we created there became part of our season. We decided that the prompt was ghosts, but that's not ghosts that haunt necessarily, but memories and nostalgia. And that got developed into what we call the ghost play this year. So in some ways, that was also a world premiere. This year, we're making it for the first year dance-centric. Oh, and so we're playing off Rite of Spring, which is a pretty well-known dance piece. And instead of that, we're calling it Rites of Spring. And we're going to, using Rite of Spring sort of as a springboard, we're going to go on and see what we can create in honor of spring in terms of dance and movement. But theater people will be there too. And what we do there will be realized on stage at Dance Tech next year.
Oh, okay.
So Marfa used to be sort of independent of our season, but now it leads to what's being done on the main stage. And Chris Staley, who's pretty new to us, will head it again for the second year. And an artist from Columbia University, Catherine Wilkinson, works with him. And our own Mallory Pruka will work with Why Not from the dance program as co-artistic directors. And we have no idea what that's going to look like, and we have no idea what's going to happen. But that's the joy of devising something. You sort of start with a prompt, and then every one of the participants has a say in the structure of the event. So everybody is a playwright, everyone is a designer, everyone is a performer, at least for a while, and then Chris will take over again with Why Not and Mallory, and then what goes up will be in some ways traditionally directed and staged, but that's from an untraditional process.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was able to witness that process, I guess, a couple of years ago down in Marfa, and there was a deviser who was, I guess, the facilitator, so to speak.
That's right.
So in this case, that role will be distributed amongst the tech faculty and the guests from New York that you mentioned.
I think that's right. When you came, we were working with aphasia, and we were trying to see if we could articulate aphasia on stage with some artists from Chicago. I think the wonderful thing about both of these, the Marfa Intensive and Wild Wind, is that they can change. So we can experiment based on something that we find interesting at the time. And Melinda Corwin really thinks that drama is a good way to help those with aphasia. So we were giving that a few weeks to see what we could discover, and you were actually instrumental in making that collaboration happen. And I hear it was very fruitful. It's the only one I wasn't there for.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it was a really really fascinating couple of weeks down there, and I'll seed our audience here that I'll be talking to Melinda Corwin about the Aphasia and Arts Workshop that we'll be hosting once again here in the School of Theater and Dance on the campus of Texas Tech in early June. So you'll hear about that coming up very soon on this program.
Oh, she's great. I'm sure everybody will enjoy that. 2 of our students, as usual, I think 2 students from music, 2 students from art, 2 students from theater and dance, usually work with that camp.
Yeah, it's a wonderful collaboration. Again, stay tuned for that. And with that, I will need to say goodbye to our special guest here, Mark Charney, Director of the School of Theater and Dance. Thank him for his thoughts and telling us all about the things that are happening over the summer.
Thank you so much, Peter. And listen, if anybody who's listening wants to come and witness any of it, they're welcome to come down to Marfa or drop in and see what's going on in the School of Theater and Dance for Wild Wind, which takes place starting in June 15th for 2 weeks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University.